electronically, then 14 days are not sufficient. I would like to pick your mind on the same, Wakili.
Thank you, Ben Troy. I think what Okia was trying to raise is a very important aspect which we need to rethink about. Because if we were to do this thing technologically or using technology purely, 14 days are even more actually, are even more, because by the close of the polling stations, at least by 12 we need to have the figures general, because just populating automatically, and that does not take time. So the issue is Kenyans do not trust each other. Wakili Shadraki has raised a very important point that the easiest way to steal an election is through technology. We have Americans still complaining. I saw one American commentator in actually Fox News, if I'm not wrong, actually raised the issue that, you know, Kenyans are brave enough to actually tackle issues which affected the election. But while here, we had Russians actually hack into our election process, manipulate the results, and we are not even comfortable talking about that. But then even, I think I saw somewhere in the American process, I think 12 Russians have been arrested in relation to election offenses. So that means the trust the trust deficit we have in this country is actually not only in Kenya, but everywhere else. I've told you of this the scenario in Philippines. So then, if we're going to go technologically, the way Ukiyo Mtata is saying, we need to be assured that this is going to be a foolproof process, whereby I don't need to start doubting that IBC could be playing games with my vote, or my candidate is actually going to be played at the end of the day because of elections, because of technology. So that is something which we need to walk ourselves through step by step, and we can start now. Once we start now, we assuage our fears that indeed this is going to work. Then we can. Wakili will tell you that in the LSK election, we do it electronically. You're in court, you sit and you vote. Even the system is not ours. It's actually some other professional body's system. Of course, we had issues around that, but when we asked them for an audit, they came and explained themselves. They said, this is what we do, 1, 2, 3. Then we were like, okay, you guys do your thing. So we have been able to actually take the credibility of an electoral process as advocates, because we have asked questions and they have been answered. So it's until we ask Chebukati and team or IBC the questions which we want to ask for a technology process and they answer and we are satisfied, we will be able to give them the green light. But as long as Majanu will be telling us, you know, I'm not aware, those things, I'm hearing them now. It means the man did conduct a process of audit, or what is it called? Before you give a tender, there's a process you're supposed to do to determine whether indeed the people we are giving, they're correct. You need to know their history. If they could have done the history of Smartmatic, I'm using Smartmatic because that's the sense of this, we could not be having so many issues. But when you are told right from the word go before election that this company you have contracted has a very, very funny history, and you go ahead and say, actually, I'm not even aware of that, but still we are going to do this. How am I going to trust that this process is going to be a clean one? And then at the end of the day, we are here discussing about the same. So Okia is raising a very good point, but as Kenyans, what is key is to assure our fears that nothing wrong is going to be happening or no games will be played with the results.
And I would like to get into your feel on, I think I'll get some sentiments from Maina before we go to Wamboi, but I'm informed that, Vicky?
Absolutely. And on this particular end from your screen, you can see Sarafina Robbie already on standby to give us an update on what you should expect. Oops, Sarafina, not yet ready. All right, we'll get back to Sarafina once we get ready with that. All right, let's cross over to Sarafina Robbie to give us an update. Sarafina, habari asubuhi, good to see you. To this particular end, I know a lot is happening around the Supreme Court and it's pressing. So far, we've seen security heightened. Could you please just give us the sight and sounds from that particular area of the capital city?
Indeed, a very good morning, Victor and Troy. As you've mentioned, the security around the Milimani Law Court, where the Supreme Court is expected to deliver its judgment at around 12 noon time, is very heightened, and only a few people are allowed to access this particular place so far. So many roads have been barricaded. So far, to the far end, at the National Library, one is not allowed to get in from that particular place, and also from the roundabout at Integrity Center. All the roads have been closed leading to this particular place, meaning that only a few people and the people that have been able to see are mostly lawyers representing different parties, as well as journalists and security officers on standby, just waiting to get to hear how the judgment will be delivered, whether they'll be able to uphold the declared results that were the presidential election results that were declared on the 15th of August, or they'll be able to nullify the results, whether they'll be able to give orders indicating for a retallying of the votes that were cast, given what was expected from the 7 petitions that were consolidated and had in a span of about 3 days. Thereafter, the 7-judge bench led by the Chief Justice Martha Koome retreated to go write the judgment, and therefore, as of today, we expect them at around 12, as they had said that come Monday in the morning, they'll be able to give us a notice indicating when they'll be able to give the judgment, and they've already done that. So at about exactly 12 noon, we'll be set and ready to get to hear the judgment from the 7-judge bench. And what we expect from these judges is that they might give their judgment unanimously, as it was in 2013, or they might choose to focus their judgment on the 9 issues that they had stated out, which included on whether the presidential result or the President-elect William Ruto was able to meet the 50+ as required constitutionally, whether all the regulations in regards to elections were followed, among other issues. So we'll be following up to get to see how they'll be able to make their judgment come 12 noon today, and so that we can get to understand then what will happen if they'll be able to declare or to uphold the results that had been declared. That means then that the President-elect William Ruto will be sworn in the few coming days. And if they'll be able to nullify the results, then this means that the elections, the presidential elections, will be held in the next 60 days. So that's what you're expecting right now, Victor. The situation is very calm here at the Milimani Law Court, where the Supreme Court is sitting. Back to you.
All right. That is Sarafina Robbie there. Sarafina, you've removed your earphones. I would have asked you a question, but you're becoming smart there. All right. Let's cross over to Junei Karisa, who is in Mombasa. Junei, to give us an update as well. Junei, good morning from the coastal city of Mombasa. What is happening down there, Karisa?
Good morning, Victor Olo. We are on the streets of Mombasa, and of course, as the country anxiously waits for that verdict to be dispensed, even the residents of Mombasa are also anxious, waiting to see if that decision will favor most of their supporters, their presidential candidates that they were supporting. During the August 9th elections, after the pronouncement by Chebukati, Mombasa County did not witness any celebratory activities majorly, because it is perceived as an ODM stronghold. So the fact that Raila Odinga was not declared the winner, of course you'd see that Mombasa County did not enter into a celebratory mood. So perhaps today, if the decision by the court is nullified, is upheld from the petitioner's side, then of course maybe this county can enter into a celebratory mood. But let me not preempt what these residents might say. Let me just engage a few of them to just give me some of their expectation, even as CJ is expected to give a definite ruling later on in the day. Tuambie jina lako na tuambie matarajio yako.
Jina langu ni Rafael Odienyo Kaya. Mimi ni mkazi wa Ziwa la Ng'ombe, eneo la Nyali. Sasa hivi naongea jijini Mombasa, Mwembetari. Kwa kusema kweli, tumerespect Supreme Court judges, and more so tumerespect Mama Martha Koome na wale wenzake 6. Sisi katika Mombasa tuko tayari, na our expectation ni kuwa tunataka ile kitu tunaita transparency, accountability, kumaanisha ni ukweli, kwa sababu wao katika court wanajua kila kitu na wale ni wasomi kutushinda. Kwa hivyo ile kitu tunatarajia ni haki na ukweli, na bila haki na ukweli nchi hii sioni ikienda mahali, kwa sababu kura tulipiga na tulirauka na tulikuwa na ukweli na tulijua mshindi ni nani. Kwa hivyo hata wao wanajua mshindi ni nani. Tunataka mshindi leo ili Kenya endelee, na bila kutangaza mshindi basi naona kama Kenya inaweza kupasuka, na ikipasuka itapasuka nao watu 7.
Hatuombi hayo, lakini kuna vipengele tofauti ambavyo koti itakuwa inaamua. Wewe kama mkaaji unataka kipengele gani ambacho kiweze kizingatiwa, hususan manake kuna zile fomu ambazo zilipokuwa pale, kuna masuala ya Chebukati kutofuata sheria kulingana na yale matamshi ama kumtawaza kama rais, naibu wa rais William Ruto kama rais mteule. Niambie tu, kuna kipengele kipi ambacho ungeona kingeweza kuangaziwa kikamilifu?
Very well. Article 80 bracket 4 inasema iwapo kura imeharibika na tumepata ni yule ameharibu hakuwa mshindi, na katika hicho kipengele inasema yule mshindi apewe certificate papo hapo bila kuchelewesha.
Kwa hivyo wewe hutaki tuwafanye uchaguzi mwingine?
Uchaguzi mwingine italeta vurugu, kwa sababu tumetoka kwa corona, uchumi ni ngumu, watoto hata wametushinda, chakula imetushinda kununua. Kwa hivyo hatutaki turudi katika uchaguzi. Yule mshindi awe declared, Kenya endelee mbele.
Asante sana, asante mzee. Njoo tu nielezee tu pia wewe, nipe vipengele ambavyo unataka Supreme Court iweze kusema hii leo asubuhi. Angalia tu mbele hivi. Anza na jina lako.
Kwa majina naitwa Samuel Okoth Kwama. Mimi kwanza nashukuru Mwenyezi Mungu vile ameleta amani. Tangu tupige kura, peace imeprevail. After peace prevail, tunataka justice. Justice, truth and justice must prevail. Ndio Kenya itapata haki. Na iko wimbo ya taifa inasema haki iwe ngao na mlinzi wetu. Tusicheze na haki yetu. Tulipiga kura, iko vipengele hapo. Kama mshindi itapatikana na Raila Amolo Odinga, kuna haja tu renew election. Apewe certificate hapo. Ile Chebukati tupuliwe mbali. Kwisha maneno.
Kwa hivyo wewe hutaki uchaguzi mwingine?
Hakuna, it's a waste of time and a waste of energy and a waste of resources.
Asante sana. Dadi, wewe nieleze tu, je, wewe ni kipengele kipi ambacho pengine ama matarajio yako siku ya leo katika uchaguzi?
Mimi yangu ngojea uamuzi wa koti. Usubiri uamuzi wa koti. Maana nina imani ya kwamba watatoa uamuzi wa busara wa kujiridhisha, maana nchi ina amani, kupitia maombi nchi ina amani na hakuna vurugu itatokea, maana Mungu yuko juu ya nchi ya Kenya.
Ungewaambiaje pengine wa Kenya wanaposubiria?
Wa Kenya nawaambia wawe na amani, watulie uamuzi wa koti. Watakapoamua tutaendelea na maisha.
Asante sana. Niambie jina lako na pengine matarajio yako hii leo.
Mimi kwa majina naitwa Paul Tocho. Wale pia watasherekea. Lakini kitu ya kwanza naomba pia tuwe na amani na utulivu na Kenya iendelee.
Pengine kuna vipengele kidogo ambavyo vinaweza kuangaziwa wakati koti ambavyo itapeana ruling yake. Wewe kama mkaaji ungetaka kipi ambacho kiweze kiangaziwa zaidi kwenye ile ruling ambayo itakuwa inatolewa?
Kwanza kwa hii ruling kitu ningependa tena kama hao majaji watatuambia in case kama itakuwa nullified, ni IBC ndio wataendelea hii IBC ama kutakuwa na tume nyingine ambayo itachaguliwa kuandaa hii uchaguzi? Because kama itakuwa nullified, sisi hatutakuwa na uaminifu na IBC na lazima iende, na sasa hao ndio watatuambia which process are we supposed to take.
Na pengine uhamasisho wako kwa Wakenya ama wakaaji wa Mombasa wanaposubiria ruling hiyo?
Hapa naona kila kitu is stand still. Naona watu wanaongojea, hata ukiangalia maduka zingine watu hawajafungua kwa sababu kila mtu anajua itafanyika saa ngapi. Hata mimi mwenyewe niko hapa na ngoja itakuwa saa ngapi ndio ifanyike. Hapo ndio najua kila kitu itakuwa imechukua nafasi yake.
Asante sana. Hayo tu ni Victor Olo. Those are just some sentiments of the residents of Mombasa. It is an anxious mood, really, and of course we have not seen many business premises opening up as they would, because at 8, as soon as 8 o'clock, most businesses are usually open in Mombasa County. It is expected, some of their sentiments are expected, seeing that ODM is a major stronghold in Mombasa County. They are anxious, they are waiting for the ruling of the 7-bench judge. One thing, they're saying that they do not want a rerun. Number 2, they want the announcement and the pronouncement by the court as to who won, so that the country can move forward. Number 3 is a clarion call for peace, even as we wait. And we are following up with this day's events. Hopefully no major incidents, of course, will be reported, but the security apparatus are on high alert. So, Victor Olo, I'm handing it back to you in studio as I continue having a cup of tea with the residents of Mombasa on their feel of the Supreme Court ruling.
Carissa, talk of tea. I can see some 2 gentlemen taking their breakfast behind you there, making us feel so hungry in studio. But just a quick one. How is the business situation in the coastal town of Mombasa, basically, in 1 minute? Okay, that is Carissa. Junei from Mombasa County, give us an update on what is happening. Of course, I'd love to ask the gentleman, the learned friends, in Article 80, bracket 4. What does that say? Gisore... That was quoted, Article 80, bracket 4.
Subsection 4.
According to him, it was bracket.
Subsection 4.
Yes. Because according to me, it talks about integrity, something to do with integrity. Do we even have it in the first place?
Victor, I'm not sure which one you're asking, because the one I think which we should be looking at should be the Elections Act, Section 80.
Yes.
Yes, that one is the one which is talking about the tallying, whereby somebody can be issued with a certificate.
Yes.
But this is a presidential election. I don't think we should be able to be talking about the Elections Act because we have a constitution which clearly demarcates what a presidential election should be, and should be able to address some of those issues. So if we are going to actually abandon the constitution and start looking at the Elections Act, I think we will be going a step lower. For the other elections, it's allowed, but I don't think the presidential one we are supposed to be looking at the Elections Act.
Yeah.
There are some areas we can look, but not tallying, because tallying, how do you start retallying across the country? It's like conducting another election. So it's as good as nullify that one, just do another fresh election. Yes, that's I think the most important.
Still on that, perhaps Vicky, there's something that has been raised by one of the guys. Ignore where sometimes they are mentioning some of the laws that are not in existence, but there's something that has been raised by one of the guys that Junei has been able to interview, and asking, yes, they're keenly following up, and we know very well it's either annulling or affirming, but they're talking about, okay, so if we are going back to the ballot, are we going back with this damaged vehicle that is IEBC? That was a pertinent question to me.
I think that was a very valid question from that concerned Kenyan, because from where I stand, if this election is annulled, if we are asked to go for a rerun, then from the submissions and the petitions presented in court, the fingers were pointing at Chebukati and his commission. We have a section of the commission already saying, we're not interested in this job. This work was shortly done, and we can't take ownership of these results, and they were quite opaque. So there's a sense in which I see that these commissioners could actually not be even interested in their job, for starters. Secondly, we have Chebukati, who has been accused of a lot of things. If the election is annulled, is on those things. Once that is actually given as a judgment of the court, then it means Chebukati is not fit to run that particular office. And the commission itself does not seem to be in a position to run this election. There is also another very important issue which we need to look at. Once Chebukati is out of the commission, we don't have a provision where we can have one of the commissioners jump to be the chairman. Or we don't have a provision in that particular nature, because the provision which provides for a chairman is very specific, that the chairman has got very distinct qualification aside from the commissioners. No other commissioner can be able to fit in his shoes. I think for administrative purposes within the running of the IBC we can do. But if we are going to go into an election, presidential election, there is a very distinct role which is meant for the chairman. From where I stand, I think we will be going into a constitutional conundrum whereby we'll have to sit and start asking ourselves, did we think this process through where we gave a chairman some very special power? You saw that being litigated in court, and the aspect of what I think Wakili Shadrack has tried to allude to, the advocates for the IBC were trying to raise that, when you talk of commission, you don't mean commissioners. When you talk of such things, and then the chairman, you're not talking about, those distinct roles. We need to decide the housekeeping process around the presidential election is very important for us to determine and be able to come up with a clear roadmap that can we be able either to have an amendment to that, so that if a chairman messes or we need to kick him out for some reason, we can quickly have an alternative and be able to go into an election. But now, this is going to be a tricky process for continuity purposes if the election is ordered for a rerun or a fresh election. Once those things are issued, then the court should be able to tell us what is the way forward on that particular issue of the chairman, because if he's indicted or if he's found culpable, then I think we'll be in a very tight spot.
Yes, and let me also get Wambui Shadrack's opinion on the same, because looking at one of the issues that has been raised, first of all, let me cross over to Victor, but Wambui, when you come back, we will try to see exactly what this guy was talking about. Remember, this is an independent commission, so exactly what happens if at all we are going back to the ballot. Let me first of all cross over to Victor on the other side of the studio.
All right. Okay, and I think at this particular point, gentlemen, it's always fair to have a very short breather, and then we come back. Director, if we can have that shot of Kisumu on my screen there, we'll be crossing over to Kisumu just immediately after we take a break. But for now, it's a minute, yes, 2 minutes past 10 a.m. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're still going to continue with this discussion. We'll be right back.
Impunity must be punished. Impunity must be punished. And impunity unpunished breeds arrogance. And arrogance leads to arbitrary exercise of power.
Where it is established that a state officer is subverting the Constitution and the rule of law, the court's hands are not shackled by procedural niceties. This is the beauty of this Wanjico Constitution that we have. It's transformative, and some people say it's a very overused word, but in these circumstances it's ideal and can bite when occasion demands. The toothless bulldog is long dead and buried. Please, Madam Chief Justice and honorable judges of this court, bite and bite for the glory of this court.
Once a plumber has fixed your bathroom, that plumber has no business being in your bathroom when you are showering. If you find him at that time, you tell him, get behind me, Satan.
Men and women who run for office in this country must accept that it is possible to win. Indeed, it is even more likely to lose, because typically an election involves more than two people, and the chances of the losers being more than the winner are very high. Until we accept that, we are going to be harming the country, we are going to be harming our institutions, we are going to be hurting independent institutions and individuals who work in those institutions. Kenyans who give a lot, ask for nothing, and get to be denigrated in the hallowed halls of this court.
A shout from humble origin ought to aspire one day to be a Chief Justice of this country. A shout of very humble origin ought to aspire to be a top surgeon in this country. I say all this because, in all fairness, unless we show hope and opportunity to all, then we'll be missing an important aspect of our growth. Considering that there is an entitlement is to engage in an illusion. That illusion ought to be replaced by reality. Reality is that it is voters who make their choice. And once voters have made their choice, let us inculcate a culture that my brothers and sisters on this side are now used to. We walk to our court, we may think the law is on our side, we may think we are entitled to victory, but we accept the verdict of the court because much as we may think we are eloquent litigators, the final word is always with the court.
An election is an event. You're going to the ballot, you're going to cast your vote, and you're hoping that your vote counts. We shouldn't be in a position where we hope that our votes count. We should be in a position where we know our votes count.
The court appreciates very deeply in that any order has consequences, and those consequences must be consequences that can be contained in our democratic and constitutional process. The Supreme Court cannot act in vain. It cannot act so as that the judgment should read like a learned legal article. The Supreme Court always acts so that it can defend democracy and the rule of law and constitutionalism in a practical and enforceable way. The sanctimonious, self-righteous, pompous pontification of the so-called 4 commissioners are an afterthought. They are a complete and total afterthought, and should be seen as that.
Because of the deficiency of trust in this country, ballot pallets can only be opened on the eve of the elections to avoid a situation where IEBC is accused of having interfered or in any way manipulated the ballot papers.
When we make these allegations in our election petitions, perhaps we need to also ask ourselves if we have done that which the law contemplates of us.
Whoever has ears, let them hear. The Supreme Court has shown us that you can also be a quote-unquote learned friend by quoting the Bible. An impressive Supreme Court session characterized by quotes, terminologies, and metaphors that left keyboard warriors for once rethink about their self-imposed title, the Keyboard Warriors. And whoever can type, let them type.
So the sanctimonious, self-righteous, pompous pontification.
What are you saying? What is he saying?
I am tweeted. Now this Supreme Court proceedings will school many. Sasa amicus curiae ni mnyama gani? John the Baptist, yani hamjui lakuna ni nini but mmenyamaza na mko sawa. Ha, laughing emoji. With the great battle came the great humor. Now we might want to further interrogate George Oraro's statement about Marjan Hussein, who walked into what exactly?